And we all stand up and go, healthcare sucks, for instance, and it's terrible. And 1970s we had 17 beds per popular, and now we've got less than 3, and we were the top 4 in the world, now we're 75 or something. So I don't want to be a group that goes out and says we need more beds per popular. That's obvious. How many do we need? Do we need 7? Do we need 8? And how do we achieve that? We need more nurses. How many nurses do we need? What's that going to cost? Those are the things we have to do. So if you're standing there here tonight and we've got friends and say, what do we need to do? Would you like to investigate this for me, please? Can you help me? If you're running the healthcare section, can you help me? How many beds do we need? We need to go to 7 beds per popular. How many is that in South Australia? We need another 645 nurses. How much will that cost? Where can we get that money from? We can tax the big players or something. Yes, great, come up with that. Because that's what we have to do. We can't just run around sooking about the world because everyone else is doing that and they're really good at it. We need to be the ones with answers. And we don't get that. And when we educate, education is not about just telling people what's going on or helping people understand what's going on in the world. But that's voters. If I've stood for 14 years to be a representative of the people. Now, in saying that, it's no good if I go around to you all and say, what would you like me to do about something if you don't know about that? So we have to educate. There's no use me going out and 60% want to do something and I know they only want to do that because they've been misled. I have to educate them and then listen to them. Okay, so this is a big thing we're trying to do here. We're trying to turn politics back into representation of the people. All right, that's what it's meant to be. If there's 100 people in this room and 70 people want something, they win because that's the majority. It's not the 5 people that got loud voices and lots of money. Okay, that's how it should work. So that's what we're here to do. And I should read over my notes to make sure I've done it all. We have to take an educated approach. The idea here is to create divisions. Healthcare, on that sheet you've got in front of you, or not in front of you, or read it before, or it's over here if you haven't got it. When we talk about healthcare, healthcare is very divisive. Healthcare is about preventive healthcare. It's about clean water, clean air, clean fuel. Okay, that's a part of healthcare. Healthcare is about education, smoking. It's about hospitals. It's about mental health. It's about disability services. There's a lot of things. We need to divide it up. We need people to have an interest in them. When I went and met, and this is why one of the reasons I'm in politics, I went and met Navita. John, can't think of his name now. I went and met Navita because there were issues. And I said, what's the problems, John, with disabled? He said, we're $1.2 million short to clear a critical waiting list. Now, do you know what a critical waiting list is? That's when a little child is suffering, laying in a bed, shitting themselves in a bed, or can't get out of the bed, or can't go out of the house because they don't have equipment. All right? They're suffering. That's a critical waiting list, $1.2 million. So I thought, what can I do? I held a big rally. Some people, Scully knows. Biggest rally in South Australia's history. No media coverage. None. All the work I put in meant nothing. I went to Labor, I said, 1.2 million, there's an election coming. Can't you just promise that? Because you know what a promise is worth anyway. Rubbish. But they couldn't even promise it. So I went to Liberals, I said, mate, if you promise this, you may get more votes, you might get elected. Can you just promise 1.2 million? No, can't do that. The party won't let me. This is the representative for disability. He couldn't do anything because he knew his party wouldn't let him.
They don't want.
Now yes, that's right. We need to find out about that critical waiting list, and I'll be going to see John Rappensberg next week. I want to see that critical waiting list. I want the Alliance to look at that. Can we go and weld up a wheelchair? Do we have a MIG welder, a TIG welder, a mate that's a MIG welder? This isn't about telling everyone we're going to do these great things. Let's do it. So this is not a rubbish thing, okay? I don't care if I don't ever get elected, if I can make a difference. And none of us should care about that as a primary concern. It's about making a difference. If some little kid can have a better life because we can get off our arse and they ring up and say, this kid's wheelchair's broken, he's on a critical waiting list, where's he live? I put it on our site. One of you guys goes and picks the wheelchair up, drop it off to someone else who can MIG weld it. MIG weld it, paint it, take it back. That's what the Alliance should be about. It's about having the balls to stand up and help the community. And the people who are here today, you all help us, you all care. You may have particular reasons you care, but it doesn't matter. When you actually achieve something, it just feels bloody great. It doesn't matter what anyone else thinks about you or anything else. If we can fix one wheelchair, then in a year's time or a few months' time there'll be more of us. Maybe we can fix 5. Maybe we can invent a lifter. Maybe we can put out a call. Maybe we can raise some money, have a fundraiser with a band, have a great time somewhere, have a party, raise $3,000 and buy some kid a wheelchair or a lifter. Maybe some old lady's getting intimidated by the RSPCA, local council, something like that. Let's step in. If they don't want to negotiate with us, let's put 1,000 people outside that council. Let's say you do this or we shut you down. Because that's what we have to do. And all that takes is everybody here, 5 people in 1 month. We have another big show somewhere and you all bring 5 people. That is not hard to do if you know we can do something. And next minute you know, before Christmas, we're 2,000 strong. And then we want to fix something, we can fix it. Okay, it's not about talking about it, it's about fixing it. Farm Direct, right? I'll talk about my little successes. I got pissed off with Woolies and Coles. The bastards want to shut the place down, okay? They want to own all food production. At the moment, every $10 you spend on groceries, $8 goes to Woolies and Coles. They are building and building and building, and they don't just make a little bit of money. Billions of dollars, $26 billion. But our blokes in the Riverland that grow the best oranges in the world, they go there and go, I'll give you 20 cents a kilo. And they say, well, fuck, it costs more for water. Oh, well, fuck you, I'll bring it from Canada, because the government in Canada will subsidise it. So we're tearing out our plants. And they're bringing rubbish in a big fridge, just so when you get it, it looks fantastic. You open it, eat it, it's got no flavour. And we've got the best. Why aren't we promoting the best? And I got pissed with them, so I hired the land next to them, right? And I held a protest. Some people know that. And Woolies weren't very impressed with that at all. And then all these people came. Thousands of people came. It was fantastic. And they all brought the produce off the few farmers that arrived. You know what? All the farmers didn't arrive. Woolies and Coles rang them. If you turn up to that, you will never sell your produce again. So the only ones that came, basically, were the ones that have already told Woolies and Coles to get fucked anyway, basically, right? So that's where we were. So I said, let's try and open a market. So we opened a market. Did really well. Council shut it down. Can't have a community market supplying product, can we? Oh, you know, that'll annoy someone. Enfield Council spoke to the Mayor of Port Adelaide Enfield Council. Mate, we've got so much pressure here from Woolies and Coles. You know, they're going to cause me too much trouble. I have to shut you down. Is that right? I didn't do anything about it. I opened another one on Commonwealth land because I can tell the Commonwealth to go, the state government, I can tell them to get stuffed, and I can tell the local council to get stuffed. So now I'm dealing with federal law. And we're going through a progress which will cost us 10 grand to use a vacant block of land for 5 hours twice a week. I'm going to spend 10 grand and change the whole parking in the whole area and redevelopment zoning and everything. So, you know, a farmer can't sell his produce, puts a little tiny cart out the front of his property, please come buy my oranges so I can pay my ETSA bill, and he'll get fined for it. And the ETSA, you know what the cost for these farmers is? You know, $10,000 2 years ago to run his storeroom. Now it's $40,000. Yeah. Do you want to pay those prices on your food? No. Woolies don't want to either, so they're going to import rubbish. So I opened Farm Direct Markets, now one of the biggest ones in the state. It took work. It took my mates here to come and help me. I couldn't do it by myself. And we donated our time for a long period of time to make that work. The Alliance has to open more. We need to open them all over the state. And when the council come in, we put 1,000 people outside the council building. And when they piss with us, we come up with legal defences and we start suing them. Okay? And we just fix it. And that's what it has to be about, fixing it. And if I get 50 people to support me, fabulous. If you don't, I'll just keep doing it anyway. So I want your help, and I'd like you to help me do these things. And if you can't help by being a member or a supporter or part of a group, help advise, spread the words, put a sticker on your back window. It all matters, because when people drive around the Alliance and they see that Alliance logo, they keep going, what the fuck? Oh, excuse me. What the fuck is that? What is that? What is that? And then when we can afford to, and it might be a while, when we can afford to, we put out a flyer that says, we are the Alliance, this is what we're here to do. And everyone's been hearing snippets, what the hell's the Alliance? And then they see it in their letterbox with a big A on it. And they grab it out, there's your marketing. Costs nothing. Because if you expect the advertiser to do feel-good stories about what we're doing here today, not a chance in hell. Channel 7 might cover us. 5AA will let us ring in and talk. quite a few people here that ring in and talk stuff like AA, but ABC might not. So we need to specialise. I will never go into ABC radio. I will never get into the advertiser, but you guys might. And if next week or the week after, this is the exciting part, we start putting out media releases. Educated, good media releases. 10 in the next 2 weeks. Easy. But they're not from Mark Goodrich anymore. Some come from me, from the Alliance. Some might come from Greg, legal section of the Alliance. Some might come from Emma, animal welfare. Some might come from someone else, gambling reform. You see? They keep getting them, but they keep seeing the same logo. And yeah, they'll do something. To be honest, they'll be quite kind until the election comes around. So by the time the election comes around, we don't care. Because we're doing things, we're helping people. So whether they cover us or not, who gives a shit? We've helped 5 little kiddies, we've helped some more farmers, we've helped some more producers. We've made more people aware of what's going on in the state. We're making people think. Because a smart, educated people is not what the government want. All right? And that's what we have to become. So I'll get someone else out to speak because I'm just so good at it, I'll make it look bad. It just seems really fair. Now Jenny, Jenny Bell, this woman wrote something once that got shared around the internet about 6 million times. Now, she probably can't speak very well at all, but God, she's got a good brain and she's a patriotic, damn good patriotic woman. And so I invited her along here to harass you. And then after that, I'm going to get Scott up, who's so passionate he'll probably fall down in the middle of his thing. And then we'll go from there. So what this is about tonight is uniting good people. Yeah, you don't. You're as bad as me. We have to rein you in. There's a few people in this place we have to rein in a bit. I'm looking at them now. Here you go.
Now I had to write it down and I'm probably going to run. The reason I've got my coffee here is I've got the wog and I might run out of spit halfway through. But so just bear with me. And I haven't put my glasses on yet, so I have to read it up close. I was to talk on patriotism tonight, and do you ever wonder why we seem to have lost it? So I'm a not too far off 70 age pensioner, a mum, a grandmother and a nurse. And I used to worry about the things I heard on the news, and I often said out loud to myself, why doesn't someone do something? It took me a while to realise that I am someone, and we're all someone. Now I can add another title to who I am, much to the concern of my kids, so I'm also now an acknowledged big mouth. I choose to be the latter because of my concern for what, if anything, we're going to be leaving our children and grandchildren, given that we're selling off our country to the highest bidder at a rate of knots. I think anyone in my age group knows that we've seen the best of times, and what we currently see happening is certainly not the best of times. Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfect.
So Mark said my talk's about patriotism on the when we first started talking about it, and I guess it is in a way, but I won't be waving a flag or singing any anthems. You can thank your lucky stars for that. There are a lot of different aspects of patriotism, so today I thought I'd like to ask some questions of all of you and let you figure it out. Just what patriotism involves for all of you. If I speak quickly, it's because we've got to get this done in 5 minutes, but I worked it out and it's about 6.5.
We'll let you off.
All right, thanks. So if I'm indistinct, I'm sorry. My voice isn't the best. So I'd like to ask you, do you sit and listen and watch and be swayed and convinced by the current Parliament antics? Do you listen to radio, watch TV and read the papers to decide who's telling the truth? Or do you find out the truth for yourself? Mind you, if you watch the ABC, you'd be a lot better off doing your own research because they're not reliable. Do you look around at what's happening in your world to help you make up your mind? Are you looking at the now? Or are you looking at the future in the bigger picture, for example, your children and grandchildren's future? Doesn't it concern you that our government will happily fund a new oval but cut aged and health care to the bone?
Yeah.
Do you wonder who'll feed us into the future or where our water's going to come from? Or why or who it's being sold off to? Yes, the government sold off our country and our water rights to the foreign countries in the driest state, in the driest continent, which they've sold off water rights in Mount Barker in the Adelaide Hills, where they tell us that water's a finite resource, but it seems we can flog it off to any other country we want to. Do you wonder why our industry's going offshore, or doesn't it cross your mind? Do you know that the Australian Bureau of Statistics on the 7th of August 2013 stated that an average of 44 businesses a day are closing their doors in this state alone? The latest one's McCain's, as far as I know. Do you worry about the cheap imports and that are putting Australians out of work and sending our farmers to the brink? Or do you just love it that you can get something cheaper online? I know it's hard to pay more than to buy Australian in the current economic climate, but the fact is that if we don't, we won't have those businesses or farms for much longer. Do you question any parts of our Australian food bowl being sold off to the highest bidder, or being raped by fracking for coal seam gas and the water table poisoned, all driven by the mighty dollar? Do you wonder why government don't realise that at the end of the day, when our food bowl is ruined and toxic, that we can't actually eat and drink coal seam gas? Do you know that our Commonwealth Constitution has been changed without our knowledge or consent, when legally it required a referendum of the people to do that, but they didn't ask us?
And they won't even walk up in court to answer their
That's right.
accusations about it.
Does it worry you that your children and grandchildren, and likely their grandchildren, will be paying off the government debt well into their old age? Did you feel like a second-class citizen in your own country when the previous federal government gave $500 million for Muslim schools in Indonesia, but by comparison gave just $1 million to assist the flood clean-up in Queensland? And knowing that on any given night there are 1,000 Aussies doing it tough and sleeping in the streets and parks with no help, given in this state alone, and that's the Salvo's figures.
100,000
Yeah.
Australian-wide.
That's right. But have you noticed that there's no record of even one asylum seeker in that position? Doesn't charity begin at home? Do you get angry at so much government interference and the regulation of your private lives? Who we can associate with, who we can criticise, political correctness which is designed to contain and silence your objections and tell us whether or not we can even discipline our own children. Do you consent to the amount of rules and regulations requiring your unquestioning obedience? Your silence is your consent. Do you know that the most of the rules and regulations are also not even legal under our Constitution, and I can prove it, and so can others in the room here? Yeah. Do any of you know what the Lima Declaration of 1975 was? Do you know what it involves? How it affects all of you? Do you also know what was decided at the Agenda 21 Earth Summit in Rio in 1992? Check it out on Google and wonder why we were not asked. Better yet, read a book called How to Kill a Country by Thurban Weeson Matthews, and I guarantee by the third page you'll be tearing your hair out. Why does this and previous governments treat our war veterans so abominably when they come home injured? Why is their paid-for superannuation indexed lower than any other government-funded entitlement or pensions? These are the people who put their lives on the line for this country and for all of us, and who have come home not the person they were when they left, either by their wounds in body or in mind. But this government uses, abuses, neglects and discards them, and so when will they give them a hand? And I'll just give you a little example of that. I don't know how many of you remember a name, but it's a soldier from Afghanistan who was killed. His name was Till. His wife's name was Brianna. She had kids by another husband, but they had kids, and I think she was pregnant at the time when he died. The pollies strut around at the funerals, but when that funeral was over, they told us all how terrible it was and they'd support her. When that funeral was over, Brianna Till 3 weeks later was told to get out of her defence housing. And if it wasn't for the veterans from the Vietnam War and other veterans standing up for her, she would have been kicked out. Now she can stay there till the kids are grown up, apparently. That's big of them. So is this what our governments who turn up to all the funerals of our current soldiers killed in Afghanistan, looking as if they give a damn, and is that what they call it, saluting their service? Am I missing something here? Aussies are known all over the world for being laid back and easygoing, and as long as the beer's cold and the footy's on, she'll be right, mate. Well, it ain't right, mate. We all know something's badly wrong, so why do we all do and say nothing? It's time we remembered the pride we once had in this country, pride in what it stood for, in who we are, and decide that we all do want a future for our kids and grandchildren. They and we deserve better than this. Make your MPs accountable and answerable, and remember to tell them that we put them where they are and we can take them out, and make sure they know it. Two things to remember before I finish, and one is an old George Orwell saying. They came for the X and I said nothing because I wasn't the X. They came for the Y but I said nothing as I wasn't a Y. Then when they came for me, nobody said anything in my defence because there was nobody left. And just remember that apathy comes before calamity. Look it up in the dictionary. It's time we all stood up and say enough's enough and take back our country.
Take it back!
Beautifully done as expected, Jenny. Beautifully done. You know, there should be about 2,000 or 3,000 people listening today because they would have learned a lot. Oh, what were you doing then? All right, I'm not looking at these notes. I don't know why I made notes. I've never had good with notes. No, I'm not going to look at the notes. Now, we have a couple of other people I'd like to get up and speak, and in fact, there's actually too many. So we'll get everyone to come up. The next person coming up to speak is Scott. We'll have to keep you to 4 or 5 minutes tops, mate. Lewis, I want him to speak on international relations. It's very important. Emma's going to do animal welfare after that because she is so good. But she'll be dancing in the streets. And then there's a couple of people here that I'd like to do just a quick 2 or 3 minutes. Will that be okay? All right, and I'm sorry that we can't do anything more than that.
Mike, did you record this?
There's some people recording bits and pieces, so we're doing the best we can. Next time we have a meeting, I expect to see lots of people in shirts, whether it be these good ones or cheap ones. Let's look professional before we start inviting everybody. Let's look professional. The speaking tonight's been fine. We've had the best, and we've got fabulous people all over Australia that want to join us, so let's make sure that we lead by example on that note alone, okay? Scott's just, I don't know why you've got notes, mate. Hey? From the heart, pal. There you go.
I can guarantee you that everything written down in notes is from the heart. Let's have a look here. Which one am I going for? Open up. Good evening all. For many of you that don't know me, my name's Scott Nichols. Others on Facebook may have seen me around my comments or whatnot as Scott's something to do with you. Because I can guarantee you over the next number of years, I'm going to have something to do with you. I'm going to have something to do with a whole hell of a lot of what's going on. Believe me, if things work out the way God intended, I will have a lot to do with you. I believe about 11 or 12 years ago, many of us who are here tonight entered a phase of our lives what the hell have I written there? About 11 or 12 years ago, many of us who are here tonight entered a phase of our lives, one that the rest of you who are here, within the time up until now, have also found some kind of connection with. And that's, in the end, you wouldn't be here if you didn't have that connection with what we're aiming at. Back in 2002, my life came around full circle, and I got whacked in the back of the head with a whole bucket load of knowledge. I started the dream that year, one that little did I know, Mark Aldridge had already started to act on. I didn't start acting on it at that point. I didn't even know that Mark had. And he was in full-fledged at that point. The current political, financial, environmental climates and basically situations that we find ourselves in today, at this very point in time, is the time that we have to step up. We have to be the voices and actions of what a government should be run like. We can't allow it to continue the way they are. We can't keep voting a two-party electorate in and expecting things to change, because that's not going to happen. We need an Australian alliance that is going to actually make things change. A while back I told a friend who I respect very much of my ideas about entering politics. His reply, as I said, I've been thinking about this for a good 10 years. His reply consisted of politicians are usually pasty-faced, upper crust, blue-collar lawyers and business-type people. So you just wouldn't fit in, no one will like it. Sure, I could shave my hair, shave my face, cut my hair, change my appearance, be whatever you want me to be. But that's not going to change that's not going to change who I am. My appearance don't matter shit. You don't bother, you don't judge a book by its cover. You judge a book by the guts of it, what's inside, what it wants to tell you, what it wants to do. I'll be involved with and relying on a lot of the groups that the Australian Alliance is putting together to some degree. There's the ones that I have got my major passions towards, and I want to be well and truly involved with those groups, each and every one of them. The ones that I haven't got that much passion from, I'm going to take the direction from those groups and bring that with me through to the highest place it can go. When each and every one of us is born, we are equal. You come out, you get born, there's no one else at that point who's any higher or lower than you. The next baby, they're the same. Everyone is equal. We are the same. Each and every one of us when we're born. Why does that change after that? Right, it's time to fix that. It's time to keep that equality all the way through our lives. Each and every child should have at very least the same levels of education available to them in order to enable their full potential to be realised. So if you're going to a private school or a public school, it don't matter. If government funding should be the same. Okay, private school can have their extra private stuff, but funding from the government has to be the same. Can't be private, public. Has to be the same. It's obvious the way our elections are conducted that it's a ridiculous farce. I'll just let you laugh about that for a minute because we all know how bad it is. In this day of information and technology, a secure computerised program should be able to be designed which can make voting extremely simple for everybody, and accounting can be secure and correct. You can't tell me that's not possible.
Pencils.
Pencils?
Pencil, paper base. Fabulous. Give me a rubber. No one in the election.
I feel, yeah, exactly. I'm getting through this. Yeah, look, they can do it with a worm on a TV program where they have their arguments and they have this worm going on. So if they can do it with that, they can do it with a proper election. You know, with an iPhone app or a computer thing. Everyone might have to go to a hall like this to do their little election, but do it by computer and bang, it's there. There's no one can change that.
On every issue.
Every issue. That's another thing.
CIR.
Well, that part that I was talking about is just the basic election. But yes, on major law points, major things that are going to affect everybody, has to be a referendum. Everybody has to have their point in there. Because if you and you and you have not had your say, who's got the right to change the law? No one, as far as I'm concerned. Everybody's got to have their say. That was my next point, referendums for major law changes.
And
nearly done. Open and transparent government. Now, wasn't that what, who was it? Mike Ryan tried to say. Oh, we're going to run the most open and transparent government you've ever seen. The next thing you know, he's getting slapped in the face with a newspaper. I want to see a government that doesn't hide everything from us. It shows us exactly what it's doing in every step of the way. It says, hey, look, we're going to put this money, and like you can all see this. Here, look, we'll show it there in a big program that you can look up on the net, and that's what we're doing. Not, hang on, we'll just hold it back here. We'll tell you when we're ready, but we won't tell you any details. You have to know. We all have to know. They work for us. We don't work for them. They earn too much money for what they do. That has to come down. The people that have been in it before have got exuberantly high pensions, that's the word. But at the same time as their pensions, they can still go out and earn $4 million a year as a CEO for a company. Doesn't that sound a bit odd? I mean, as far as I'm concerned, if they can get a job as a CEO, they don't need a pension. Look, I've got so much more to say, and you're going to hear it over time. Believe me, you are going to hear it all. And I hope that you vote for Mark, and I hope that you vote for me. And the Australian Alliance is going to turn this place around, starting in South Australia. We're going to start it here, and we're going to show the rest of the world what a government should be run like, and everyone's going to love it.
That's the first time he's spoken. I'm pretty happy, actually. That's pretty good. Good, impressed, mate. Passion. You've got to embrace passion. Accountability. Honesty. Nothing we ever do should be dishonest. The truth is a powerful tool, mate, and you know that's why the politics go down, because they just don't respect the fact that it's...
Just one thing. I will point out, I'm going to have my detractors. People are going to tell you things. Got an issue? Ask me. I'll tell you the story.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, ask him afterwards. Okay. Now, yeah, that's what it's about. You know, it's about just telling the truth, bringing the truth out in the open, making sure people understand it. All right, I'm not going too radical straight off. You know, I mean, there's a few of us here, 10 years' experience in a particular topic. You're going to have to jump back 5 years, mate, and stay educating from there, because that's what we have to do. All right, I'm looking at certain people around the room when I say that. Now, who's next? The paperwork's been stolen. I won't know. Louis, come on. I'll tell you a bit about Louis. No, I won't. I'll let him do it. He's travelled all over the world, Louis. International relations, democracy. Well, just give us a list of countries in a moment. I mean, the guy's been everywhere. He's very good with media. He'll be running our online media, and might even con him into running an online website for us. But I'll just tread carefully and quietly and carry a big stick.
Thank you, Mark. First, I want to shake everybody's hand here, because it's the greatest honour to be here among such great people. And the reason I say that is because I left in 1975 when I was still a small boy. I was 12 years old, and we could say basically I've been back 6 months, and I've got the greatest respect for you because you've, for two reasons, come to my mind immediately. You've kept your sanity. As farmers, I don't know how you've managed to do that. Of course, a lot of people are committing suicide, but it takes a lot. And the other thing is that you have been boiled like frogs, slowly, okay, by all these laws that have been coming out. For me, coming back after so long away, I can see immediately that, I just wanted to jump straight back out. In fact, this is my third attempt back, Mark knows. The other 2 times I came, I bounced back out of the hot water because it's just too much. you know. So much has to change here, and part of the reason that I am going to stick it out this time is because I've actually got a lot of hope, thanks to the Australian Alliance.
No, you should have.
Now, I want to talk a little bit briefly, because we haven't got much time here, about international relations and the media. Just some basic points. You probably know it already anyway. I'm not going to perhaps say much new. But look, I've been to 59 other countries around the world. I've lived in 9 for long periods of time. I speak at least 5 languages, unless we count South African, Australian, American, and a few but I've been around, and I would like to say that relations are between people, not governments. Now, they're supposed to be between people and not governments. Now, what's going on all over the world is governments are screwing us absolutely everywhere. I see the same thing everywhere, except it's actually worse here than a lot of places. There's no reciprocity. India or China, just to take 2 examples, they take much better protection of their people and their industries and ownership and land and so on in terms of foreign ownership, okay, than we do. So there's no reciprocity there. So relations need to be between people rather than governments, and we've actually got a lot in common, but we have to work here with what we have on our rights in this country. Now, the media serves the same elites as the government does. So we can't actually expect them, they're not here today, and it doesn't surprise us, and we can't expect them to be here. We have to be the media. That's my background. I've founded the, perhaps one of the, it's at the top of Google anyway if you search independent news agencies in the world. I did that 13 years ago, still running, and I'm going to try and do something like this here in Australia for us. AdelaideX.com is just a small local start here, so you can look that one up. Now, a prime example of how the government doesn't give a shit about us is Chappelle Corby, who's been locked up for 10 years in Indonesia. Now, I would urge you on the basis that this is really shit that's going to hit the fan and is going to expose the politicians, the media and the lawyers. Because these 3 areas, law, politics and media, the prostitutes, are what's screwing us here. Now, if you look up, there's expendable.tv, and you can see a short documentary that actually proves that this lady is innocent. She's a young Australian lady who took off for a holiday, and because of a smuggling ring inside Australia, she ended up with drugs in her bag. But all the AFP, the press, and the politicians of the time under the Howard government covered up this fact that they know that she's innocent. They've got the documents and the proof that she's innocent, but that is now available on the web, and yet anybody can download these documents, but not one media network in Australia has even mentioned that fact. Today's a historic day because this is the beginning of a new hope for a brighter future for Australia.
Yeah.
Now, the 16 core principles of the Australian Alliance are an excellent minimum platform for maximum unity. And I think all of us appreciate that we're from many different backgrounds here, both historically on our ideologies or our viewpoints or our backgrounds, all sorts of things. But we're all united in our diversity here, and that's what we've got to keep going. And that's what's going to make or break the future here. There's no other hope. There's no other movement, no other political party in Australia that I can see. There are some that have got aspects right, but not across the board. And I think that the Australian Alliance has got it right across the board. So toward people power, let's support this alliance and a brighter future for Australia and Australians. And I thank you very much.
or I'll be really short now. There's two other people I want to get up to have a short speech. But now we're going to have Emma. Emma's our bright, up-and-coming younger generation, because we're all old. Most of us in the room are a bit older. And well, some of us are older. Well, two of us are older. All the rest are young. I'm the old one. And Emma's going to talk about animal welfare, which just touches my heart. Absolutely does. It's very important to me, my wife, and most of us here, I hope. Because if you don't care for the animals, then you don't care for the equal rights of life, then you've got problems, in my opinion.
Thanks for that. It's a bit nerve-wracking to come here and speak in front of a whole heap of people who are really passionate and really forward with what they have to say and what they believe in. So I'll give it a bit of a go, but, bear with me. My name is Emma. You may know me well for my activism, as labelled by some, against the live export trade and the horrifically outdated farming methods of pigs and poultry. Others may know me as an eco-terrorist, an extremist, a pirate, supporter of all of that. AKA, I'm a volunteer for the Sea Shepherd Conservation Society. I'm vegan because I feel it's a choice needed to be made with what needs to be fought for, the voices, our environment and the animals.
Yeah.
This is a choice I've made in regards to my personal beliefs and inability to support industries of whose methods I disagree with immensely. I cannot forget the horrific experiences I've had in working on rural farming properties, nor can I stop the blindfolded politicians from removing rights of other politicians to care, to compassionately amend animal welfare legislations. Reform, amendment to fix laws that are put in place to protect all animals, not just the ones that people see in the pet shop, nor the ones stuck in a tree, but the ones most don't think about. The ones that wind up in our stomachs, not given a chance to touch our hearts, their pleas easily forgotten. The ones that never experience the light of day, nor the pleasure of a kind touch. They experience the world only through a slot when it's their turn to be chucked to the slaughterhouse. Or the inhabitants, our associates of the ocean, that right at this very minute are having targets put over their heads. Funnily enough, it's the people labelled as eco-terrorists and pirates that are the ones stopping the sanctimonious robots we know as humans from illegally capturing and senselessly murdering the most majestic fellow earthlings that have been known to man. Whales. Funny how the government turns around while the media screams when the Bob Barker, a 500-tonne Sea Shepherd vessel, is sandwiched between a 5,000-tonne and an 8,000-tonne whaling vessel. Where is the government to protect these? Where is the government to protect our whales and our environment when it's illegal to whale in these waters and they turn around and they blindfold everyone else and no one knows a thing about it? Trying to refuel illegally in our waters, Australian waters, millions of dollars worth of damage, but 932 whales were saved. From the moment we are born, we are drawn to animals. When we see our dogs in the backyards frolicking about, we experience a sense of joy at their happiness. We cannot help but experience immense distress when observing any amount of pain experienced by our fellow animals. So why is it there are no free-range pork options in any generic supermarket? Why is it in these supermarkets they're deluding people into thinking that bred free range is the same thing as free range? Why is it we have people from all over the world risking their lives to protect our oceans and save our whales, which are illegal to murder in our waters, whilst the government sits and watches and labels us as the extremists? Why is it you have to be a hippie to care? Why is this the mentality? I don't understand. This is the mentality that we need to break. And whether you eat meat or not, I think everyone can agree that we should be working together to bring forth justice and humane treatment for all animals, whether you believe they belong on your plate or not. A person very dear to me on the list of inspirers is Lynn White, and I would like to quote her now. The simple joys in life that we take for granted: freedom, sunshine, fresh air and exercise. These have been denied to millions of living beings that are provided in human care. We have failed in our most basic ethical duty towards them, to provide a life worth living. Most people don't understand how they could live years, decades of their lives not knowing what is happening to our animals. What most people don't understand is we're not supposed to know. We are not supposed to see, let alone understand the atrocities we pay people to do to animals behind closed doors. We are not supposed to think about the pain, the suffering, the horrific injustices we are doing to fellow living beings. I have a feeling you would not keep your dog in conditions like an average factory farm for pigs and poultry, in cages so small they can't spread their wings, they can't turn around, they can't experience the life that we would deem worth living. Or if you find the media spun images of lost souls trapped and tortured in another country for live export messed up, perhaps you would agree something needs to be changed. When these monstrosities of what is deemed as humane and efficient slaughter boxes were approved by Australian programs and the workers were trained by Australian people. But did you know in Australia it is legal to slaughter a cow by slitting its throat fully conscious if you're a halal approved abattoir? Does anyone know about this? Every average person? This is some of the greatest examples I can give you to explain how desperately animals need our voice, but not just the furry ones that accompany most of our houses. The ones that are easy to forget about, the ones that you don't see until they end up on your plate, the ones that need us the most. It is of my opinion that we need to bring these injustices outside closed doors and make a change, reform, make a difference. Let's not forget those that give up their lives for us. Let's have an independent welfare system that covers them appropriately too. Not make exemptions for their welfare simply because people eat them. And one thing that will continuously infuriate me is while we're sitting here, we've got someone who's representing us, representing our country. Our Prime Minister is going to Indonesia and apologising to Indonesia for what happened 3 years ago that got thousands and thousands of people, regardless of their walks of life, regardless of their opinion on whether you should eat meat or not, thousands of people, farmers, animal activists, you name it, against this one issue, against the injustices that were caused to our animals. And he's going and apologising to that country for what they did to us.
He had no right.
If anything, he should be apologising to the farmers for the injustices that they were blinded to. If anything, he should be fixing it. I don't understand it. And then while we're turned around and infuriated by that, he goes and sells heaps and heaps of land over to the Indonesian that is for cattle farming.
Don't you think farmers should be held accountable if they allow it? Can't farmers will pull back and go, we're not going to allow it?
I think farmers should be held accountable, but what you've got to realise is you've got to find the source of the problem.
But it's all about money.
The source of the problem is 3 years ago when this footage was first released, farmers had no idea. They send them on a truck and they think that they're going to be treated well and they're going to be slaughtered and people are going to consume what is slaughtered. They had no idea what was happening. We have hundreds of thousands of people that are farmers that are against live export, but we don't hear about them because animal activists are standing there and giving these animals a voice, and they don't want to collaborate with these people because they support eating meat. They have no issue with eating meat, and that's got to stop. We've got to stop taking our personal beliefs and using them to blind us from the solutions. The solution is we get together, we tell people, we stand up for our animals and our rights. This is our right, this is our animals. We should not be allowing other countries to decide what happens to them. It's disgusting. One more quick thing I'm just going to say is it's not hard to stand up and do what you believe in and actually make a difference. I mean, I'm 19 and I've got a benefit gig coming up, which I'm just going to do a bit of shouting out to, on Wednesday night, where I've got 6 bands playing for nothing in a venue that I haven't paid a cent for, of which they are providing free drinks for all of the band members, and they're providing guarantee and all the rest of it, and a sound engineer for nothing, simply because I bothered to get up and send an email through and explain to them what's happening to our environment and what's happening to our whales. So, it's not hard. I'd love to see all you there. It's 6:30 at the Crown Anchor Hotel. They're brilliant people. Brilliant people.
We'll just shout that out. We'll shout that out online too. Do you know what I love about Emma is that, you know, I'm an animal activist. I believe in the rights of animals, and if an animal's bred in this country and it leaves this country's shore, we have just as much right to look after it from when it leaves this shore. I am a consumer of meat, and my wife knows every now and then I second guess myself when I cook a steak. Because I do care so much for animals, but Emma's good because Emma understands that other people make other choices. But while an animal's alive, and I'm not going to go into my religious beliefs because I'm not sure I have any, but once there was a time when Buddha saved and I'll say Buddha, but Buddha saved a sheep. It was going to die the next day, but he still saved it because it still had one more day to live. Okay, so I just want to say that to you all. This is I don't want to have animal activism go too extreme, but every animal has a right, even if it's bred for food, okay? I don't know where I feel about that some days, you know, that changes. But I'd like Emma to work with people like Peter. And you might see that as unusual, but Peter breeds livestock and he does a good job of it. And he cares for them. And that's what we need to do is find that fine line.
Well, that's what I'm sick of. I'm sick of animal activists telling us they're for animals and then going up and having their run and having their say and then completely disregarding
disregarding what other people may feel.
And if you working with Peter,
Could I just say one
can
thing?
help you
Yeah, hang
come
on.
to that happy medium.
We live in a democracy,
Yeah.
and Emma has got the right to say whatever she wants. And she's passionate, and she's taken a lot of guts to get up there and say her bit. But yeah, look, we get together and we talk about things and you come with the right outcome.
Well, that's just it, you see. You know, there's a part of me sometimes being so, you know, we run a sanctuary, I care for animals, and so there's times when if the meat I'm eating resembles an actual animal in any way, the cut, or I think about it, it affects me. Other people don't, and we're not expecting that. We have to find a fine line. But while that animal is alive, it needs to be treated with respect, and that's it. That's really it. And just because we breed an animal here and we put it on a ship to send it somewhere, it's an Australian animal. It deserves respect all the way. And the fact is, really, if we're proactive in respect to employment in this country, then maybe all slaughter should be done here and we shouldn't live export. But anyway, that's some of these topics you've got to remember, we're not a political party. We can have a nice brief paragraph about a product, a topic, and people can add to that. We can't be precise policy directives. If we start doing that, we undermine the fact that we're individuals. All right?
We turn ourselves into Labor and Liberal already.
All right, yes.
Not what
You know I'm going to send you in there, don't you? Yeah. Send you in to speak at one of their topics, one of their rallies. I've got two more people that are going to do a quick speech. I've got Alan Crickle coming up. Did I say that right? Crickle?
Cricky.
Cricky.
Oh,
It looks like an L on here. And then there's a young lady by the name of Alex, who I think should do a couple of minutes, just because she's turned up here and I know that she's a very passionate woman. And then we'll have to finish up. So the rest of the stuff online, we're going to have to really look. What I want you to do when you leave here today, please, it's important in case I forget. You grab a copy of the core directives and email to me any section. If you think a section needs reforming, and they all do, bar one maybe or two, I need a paragraph or a paragraph and a half on each topic which allows freedom of choice but defines what the Alliance is about. Now that's not easy, but we need to get that right because in the next week or two we need to concrete that and get this going. Here we go, Veteran Affairs. And just so you know, I was the spokesperson for SPSN at one stage, and he'll know who that was.
Thanks very much, Mark. Thanks for the opportunity. How many of you people here know, just to start this thing off, this country's been at war for 10 years? Right, okay. In that 10 years that we've been at war, we've now created more returned service persons than were actually in Vietnam. Now I say service persons because amongst that are now female veterans, which is something, I mean, we had nurses in our previous conflicts. We have females that have been in other services in Iraq, Afghanistan, and the peacekeeping. So we've got a whole new paradigm as far as veterans are concerned. What I want to talk to you about quickly is we had a centre of excellence here in South Australia called the Repatriation General Hospital in 1995. But the federal government decided they were going to hand administrative control of the repat to the state government, which basically meant that they were still going to pay for veterans to go to the repat hospital, but the administration of the repat was going to come under the state government's auspices. The money that gets paid for looking after veterans at the repat gets paid into state health, and state health is supposedly looking after the veterans at the repat hospital. Unfortunately, over the years, what they've done is they've curtailed a lot of the services that are available to veterans who have always relied on the repat hospital for their special needs, their war-caused illnesses and injuries. And later on, they've also, now that war widows are eligible for gold cards, this includes gold cards. Now, what's happened since the state government has declared the repat hospital a public hospital and a campus which is linked to Flinders Hospital, Flinders Medical Centre. It's now a public hospital. The Department of Veterans Affairs is still paying for veterans and war widows to be admitted, treated, looked after at the Repatriation General Hospital, and is still paying the private patient rate for services at the Repatriation General Hospital. But because the Repatriation General Hospital is a public hospital, these people are only getting public hospital services. So the money's being paid into state coffers, but the money that's actually, or the services that are being paid for are not being supplied at the Repat Hospital. So this is just blatant thievery. And the unfortunate thing about it is, everybody's aware of it, nobody's prepared to fix it. We have a Veterans Advisory Council, a Veterans Health Advisory Council, and 15 ex-service organisations, and none of them, not one of them, can do anything about this particular rort that's going on from State Health. Now, the latest problem, and I'll be as quick as I can, we had an acute referral unit, which is the same as an emergency department, that was used by 7,000 of our sickest veterans and war widows in this state per year, and was an emergency department to get direct access to the wards at the Repat Hospital. Last year, January, they closed that acute referral department.
That's 7,000 a month.
7,000 a year. No. Now, that was to save $1.5 million. They closed that acute referral unit, so now, if they have a critical incident, any veteran or person in the Repat has a critical incident, like a heart attack or a respiratory problem, the hospital staff are required to ring St John's Ambulance to come and get an ambulance to take them out of the hospital, the Repat Hospital, to take them to the nearest hospital for emergency treatment. Because emergency treatment cannot be done at the Repat Hospital. Right? This is what the veterans are putting up with in South Australia right now. This was a centre of excellence for treatment for veterans, but this is what they have to put up with now. It's just a disgusting situation. We have 7 Battalion in Edinburgh who just had 480 people in Afghanistan for 7 months. Right? Now, they've still got 140 to come back, and they won't be back to, all of them won't be back until February next year. A lot of those guys are multiple tour, just talking 4 or 5 tours over the last 10 years. The Department of Veterans' own figures are 40% of them are going to have significant health problems. The Australian Defence Force, the Department of Veterans Affairs, are actually admitting these people to the Repatriation General Hospital. They are getting exactly the same short shrift that the veterans currently being treated at the hospital are. Now, there is the shame of the government that we have at the problem. They are stealing from the veterans of this state. The veterans that gave everything they had, their entire bloody lives,
And the government's screwing them.
to be able to allow you people to come to a forum like this and speak freely. Thanks very much for
Stand up
listening.
for it.
Thank you very much for that. I once said to a Polly, I said, if you can't stand behind your bloody veterans when they get back, how about going over there and standing in front of them and see how you like that, you bastards. Anyway, thank you very, very much, mate. I really appreciate that. Yeah, it makes me sick. Makes me sick. And the indexation, I should go on his topic, it's his topic. Indexation of income for veterans is disturbing, not good enough. 30% of a waddy at least, you know, bloody bastards. Anyway, I won't go into it. I have covered that topic in my life. Not well enough, because we've made no changes. Alex, could you come and do just a few minutes, please? And after that, I'll give you a rundown on how we can all work on finalising some stuff. I need it finalised in 7 days. So I need you to get online and help me finalise that in a few days, okay? And everybody here, don't you have to be a member? I just need your input, okay? Here you go, Alex, please. From the heart, my dear.
Hello, Alex.
Hello, I'm Alex Hodges. I write a lot of letters to the paper. I live at Birdwood, so you might have seen me in the paper on all these topics that we've been covering. I just want to say to people, if you want to know what's going on, you need to read other things besides the Murdoch press. And I read a whole range of publications, and some of them are just, they blow you away with the information that we are not told.